will actually be hosted with Sherry. Sherry will discuss the Black Lives Movement and how it originated, and then implicit biases involving that from her perspective. Sherry?
Okay. So I in preparing for this, I went over a few things because the Black Lives Matter movement seems to mean so many different things to so many different people. But it basically started back with Trayvon Martin when he was shot and killed in Florida, and there was very little, as perceived by the African American community, there was little to nothing done about it. And not only that, the person that shot and killed him basically got away with it. And this is something that happens in the Black community very, very often. So much so that the following year, Tamir Rice, 12 years old, in the park, shot and killed, this time by police officers who, as I watched the video again, and basically they drove up shooting. And it was another situation where nothing was done to those officers. So in response to that type of thing, the Black Lives Movement came to be, because people that have experienced what a lot of African Americans have, they see this, and it just seems like every time something happens to us, nothing is done about it. And the Black Lives Matter movement it came about because of this. And I hear so many people respond to Black Lives Matter with all lives matter. Well, of course, all lives do matter, but Black lives matter too. And it seems that in this country, very often it seems like Black lives do not matter. And you have a different response, as we saw this week. We saw what happened. And I also, when I was, preparing for this, I went to the website and I was like, okay, so what differences do we see in responses to the way people are treated? Well, Dylan Roof came to mind too. He shot and killed 9 people who, after praying with them in their Bible study, he shot and killed them. And he left, he fled the area. He was picked up. And when he was picked up, they very gingerly handled him. And once he got to the police station, he was saying, told them he was hungry. And so they said, oh, well, we'll just go to Burger King and get you something to eat. Now, the response to, he had killed 9 people, and they knew this. Not that he shouldn't get anything to eat, but the response to them picking him up and the way that he was treated so very differently from what would have happened in another situation with even a Black youth. Case in point, Kyle Rittenhouse, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So Kyle Rittenhouse kills 3 people, walks down the street with his AR-15 strapped on him, and waves to the police, and they drive right by. And then, he went home. He's from Illinois. He went home. So to me, these are really kind of extreme examples of implicit bias, but it is implicit bias nevertheless. Mm-hmm. So we have to realize how deep this can go, and the consequences of just me thinking that this person is different and I'm going to be able to treat this person different, and the consequences that are different. It does seem to be that Black lives do not hold the same value as maybe the Caucasians or anybody else. So I that was my take on it. And having worked at the Will County Sheriff's Department, at first I worked as a dispatcher, but I spent the latter part of my career down at the jail. And you see it all the time, where these young 18-year-old Black male come in for burglary, first offense, he's going to prison. Young Caucasian male, 18 years old, first offense, burglary, probation. So it happens frequently in the criminal justice system, as Sonny was saying too, but all over it does. And the reaction to it is movements like the Black Lives Matter movement. So I don't know if anybody, Michelle, did you have any opinion on the Black Lives Matter movement or any, involvement with it?
I hate to say that I don't know a whole lot about the Black Lives Matter movement. I do know that all lives matter, especially my Black life and my son's Black lives, right? And so as I watch, these events that are happening, I think about my sons. And I do have to have those conversations with them about encountering any encounters with the police. It's difficult. I'm very passionate about that. Even though my experience with police officers is, I would say it's a little different because I grew up in inner city Chicago, and when I was in school, we had officer friendly, right? And so we had our coloring sheets, and he used to come and talk to us. So, and up until today, I have never had a bad experience with the police officer. But I didn't.
Yeah, and just
but let her finish.
Quick
Sonny.
comment regarding that. I don't, and it's the whole
Sonny,
notion
excuse
that,
me, Sonny.
Oh,
Let
sorry.
her finish first, okay?
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
And so, but I do recognize that I have Black boys. I have 3, and I have one with a sports car. And I do have to have that conversation with him about protocol when a police officer approaches his car.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is difficult because when I see those boys getting killed, the first thing I think of are my sons.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And Sonny, did you had something to add?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just to add that I think there are narratives that are pushed that if you support Black Lives Matter, that you don't support police, and that
right.
That's
go
not true.
because
You're exactly right.
It's just, and I've heard this from so many people who I consider to be, either my colleagues or my friends, but it's not, Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that police lives don't matter or anything else, but it's just historically, systematically, there's been racism, not only by, the actual enforcement of the law, neutral law, but also passing laws that are actually against one group versus the other. If you look at the sentencing guideline, federal sentencing guideline versus crack cocaine and heroin, it's such a disparity. Crack cocaine in the 80s, you had these small time users serving life sentences for crack cocaine versus if you smoked cocaine, loose cocaine, and you were white, you would end up getting probation or getting treatment. And so it's not that, supporting Black Lives Matter is like against policing or enforcement. It's just the ability to say, hey, systematically, there's been racism against a group of people who historically have been put down. And, there's been laws passed, redlining and zoning, laws restricting where they could live, where they could buy properties. And that is to recognize that until their lives matter, and until we pass laws in which it protects them and protects the community that it's been historically, systematically put down, until that happens, all lives aren't going to matter. It's you have to make sure that, what has happened historically has to be addressed. And that's what I really, I know, Michelle, you're not pushing this, but I hear that from, friends of mine who are in law enforcement. It's like, if you support Black Lives Matter, it means you're against us. No, it's not one or the other. It's just being able to say, hey, we have to stop the overt racism and and it's actually implicit bias that goes into, passing these laws.
And Sonny,
yeah,
and Sonny, and to my point, it's even before we get to the laws, it's the behavior, it's the treatment the treatment is not even the same, which is the implicit bias, right? But there's a difference when you talk about police and policing. So there's this code within the police department, the brotherhood, and then there's the systemic processes that are inequitable to Black people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Sherry, I think you got 3 left. The Ben.
Okay. Gentlemen, you can jump in here anytime. Ponce, you want to go ahead?
I guess as an organization, I don't know a lot about it, but as a statement of, I don't know, truth, I think I agree with it. I think I don't think it's a fair argument to say that I'm trying to word it right. Like, it's not a counter. I don't think it's a good counter argument to say that all lives matter when people are hurting so much, or even if there's perceived hurting. Like, we should figure out a way to not, I don't know, not hurt each other as much. But I mean, I've experienced when I was a kid, police officers asking me for my ID for no reason and pulling me over and then searching my car. I mean, I had a old Cadillac hoopty, and I might have been wearing colors that was perceived to be a certain thing, and but I don't hold anything against police officers, and I actually have a really strong relationships with a lot of local police officers, and I mean, like I said earlier, your experiences have a way to shape how you feel in the future, but we can try to fight that urge to let certain situations change how we feel permanently. And I think we can do better just to affect the people that are closest to us and be better. I can be better.
All right. And Jake, as a Caucasian person, and a lot of Caucasian people, I believe, don't understand the movement, but it's something new and something different. So I think people take it the wrong way. What are your feelings on that?
I to Ponce's point or his statement, I mean, I think it's it's a worthwhile movement. It's something that I guess I'm a little I don't want to say ashamed, a little sad, I guess, that it's gotten to that point. I mean, we're in 2021 right now, and there's definitely different treatment, for people of certain races and everything like that. Still, I mean, I guess it kind of makes me sad, that I'm not saying that I'm embarrassed of being white or who I am or who I'm going to become. I just wish I could. I just wish it wasn't necessary, I suppose. But it is. They say all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. I think that factors into a lot of it. I think somebody, I can't remember if it was Michelle, or if it was you that said, the code. I mean, my brother-in-law is a police officer. My aunt was a state trooper. I have law enforcement in my family, but I probably get absolutely vilified for saying this, but I do believe that there is still a certain amount of looking the other way that happens. And I just wish that wasn't the case, because I think this has snowballed out of control because of that. If you'll let me, I will share my own experience though with police. It's obviously one experience. When I was in high school, my grandmother lived in 55th and Rockwell in Gage Park, and my friends and I, we were 16 years old, and we had got lost. I mean, I'd driven there many times in my life, but we got lost. Okay. we were at Garfield and Damon, which is a little bit farther east of there. Mm-hmm. And we're turning around because I knew we had to go back down Garfield, and we got pulled over right away. I mean, we were in a really bad neighborhood, car full of 4 white kids. White police officers came out with their guns drawn, and they really kind of, I wouldn't say they roughed us up, but I mean, they weren't super polite, Did they do that to protect us or scare us, or did they do that, because they really didn't care if we were black or white? I don't know, but, I obviously, I've had all good experiences. Aside from that, I mean, I was a little bit of an odd, and I promise you, we weren't trying to buy drugs. We were really just trying to look for my grandmother's house. But yeah, I mean, you definitely, yeah. I just wish there was a better way to ensure more fairness. It sounds like Sonny, I don't have, I don't know the law like somebody like yourself would know. But I mean, it does sound like there is a definite gap, between the way that certain people are handled in the legal system and not. Why we're not trying to, that to me should be like a very high priority. I don't understand why that's not. I mean, I would imagine it's all numbers. You could say, all right, here's 500 similar crimes by a white person, 500 similar crimes by a black person or a person of color. Look at the difference in the sentencing. Look at the difference in the punishment. I mean, to me, I feel like that would be a very easily identifiable issue, and then bring it up to the light so that everybody can see it, and then make sure that it doesn't continue to happen. Mm-hmm. But as far as I got off track, the Black Lives Matter movement, actually, that was what Ponce said. I don't think it's a fair counter state. When people say when someone says all lives matter, it makes me cringe, because why they're saying it, right. And it's really makes me uneasy, because it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's almost like a subtle FU, in a way, I guess. Pardon my language, Pamela. Yeah. But I feel like it is, and it's like, wow, like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I've done some research also on like the civil rights movement of the, early or late 50s, 60s and 70s. And, I don't know if people are like nervous that, like there's obviously like the bad parts of it, like the Black Panthers and things like that. If they're like nervous that that's going to kind of come back or something, I don't know, but it's definitely a very, worthwhile movement, and it's definitely something that I think deserves everyone's respect, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jake.
You're welcome.
Andre, you had any thoughts?
I guess my thoughts would just be that with the Black Lives Matter movement, I do. It does make me cringe also when I hear people counter it with all lives matter. Being a young Black male in America, and then raising a young Black male in America, I see that our lives don't matter. And so it's hard trying to get him to understand that you're valuable, that you are worthy, that you are enough. Especially when we see so many things, and it's just like a recurring theme. You turn on the TV, you turn on the news, and it's like, oh, another one gunned down, taking a jog. Another one gunned down for reaching for a phone. And we mistakenly thought it was, a gun. It's almost like that implicit bias when we pull them over or we run the license plate. We know who we're pulling over. So we get out the car with the mindset that, the smallest thing, we're going for a gun. And because the law has backed them, and it's like, okay, we're going to constantly continue doing it. So the Black Lives Matter movement, I don't know, much about the organization. I know that it is to just kind of justify that, not that our lives matter more than anyone else's lives, but our lives should matter equally to everyone else's lives.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty much what I have to say about it.
Okay. Thank you, Andre. Okay, Sherry, I just like to just say something before you end your segment, is that when I think of Black Lives Matter because my life mattered, period. And, and I remember, I'm an adult, obviously, past grown, but I remember when I became a member of Ponce's gym, and I didn't even know him at the time. Another friend and I, became members of the gym. And it was so ironic because it was Jake's mother who she invites me to everywhere, when it comes to exercise.
So there's some things that she may invite you to you don't want to go to.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the thing is that when my friend and I, when we both became members, the first thing, that I did was, of course, I walk in, I'm searching out the place with my eyes, just trying to get the feel of everything. And both of us was just looking around. And nobody's going to mistreat me because I'm too old to let someone mistreat me. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
And when I'm paying for something, it's definitely not going to happen.
Right.
So, but the thing is that I felt very comfortable. The 2 years or whatever that I was there, I felt very comfortable around the people. People went out of their way to make me feel comfortable. And the thing is, they didn't have to, because I'm comfortable in my own skin, because I know that my life matters. What was amazing to me, and she and I both said this, was I met, the gym was probably comprised of more cops than anything. Cops, just to sort of see them outside of their element, because I've never known that's who they're. The thing is, everybody is cool until things happens. And nothing happened at the gym. It was a beautiful experience. I met, some friends for life, but in short, it's just that nobody knows what people go through. You don't know what people are experiencing until you have conversations with them. The racists think it was a bias, trying to figure out, okay, now who is that? And I kept coming every day. Not, until the work, it just got to be too much. But we kept coming, and I felt extremely comfortable each and every day, but the biases ceased. Why? Because as I continued to come, because I wanted to be there. So that's what I just wanted to share. And then Ponce always made us feel extremely comfortable, as far as coming. And even, like I said, he contacted me even when I had to go, to make sure that it wasn't anything that he did or anybody at the gym did, and it wasn't. These are my friends, brothers and sisters, I believe, for life, that I met. So that was really important.
And I think too, at the time, you guys had the commonality of the gym. So,
yes.
The implicit biases probably were under the surface,
yes,
but
exactly.
that commonality. And
yes.
So it doesn't surface as much. I always like to think of the Black Lives Movement. As I said, I'm a union activist. So I think of it in much the same way. It grew because it was needed. People always get down on the union sometimes, but why is there a union? Because of perceived exploitation in the workplace. Mm-hmm. So then people don't take it anymore, and they form unions. So the Black Lives Matter movement, to me, grew out of that need for people to recognize this is going on and you need to see it. I think George Floyd brought it home when, when that happened to him, people actually saw that, what is he doing? And that is a wrong thing to do. But because they thought that they could do that because of who he was and whatnot, it did happen. But I think people's eyes are opening up a little bit more. I think that the Black Lives Movement has helped with that. And I think that just the other day, all the stuff that's going on, even President Biden said, had this been a group of Black Lives Matter protesters, they wouldn't have been able to even get into the Capitol building. They would have been stopped at the stairs, in other words. And I do agree with that. So I think the movement is necessary. So I think it is. And I hope that we can learn from it and maybe do, like you said, discussion does help. people need to recognize that they're acting this way because of implicit bias, which they don't even recognize that that's what it is.
I would like to add that there are, I get a lot of emails, and there's a group, Racial Healing. It's like a trainer, and so they're training people to have racial healing circles. And just today, I think on the 19th is the day of healing. And so they're facilitating some circles, and they have an overwhelmingly amount of people that have registered for this racial healing training. And they are looking for more facilitators to conduct the training. So there's a movement going on both sides. And it's so refreshing to see, and I love it. I just hope that one day racism can just go away, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Wow.
I think because we have such,
got about 1 minute,
you know,
Sonny, before we go
okay.
to the last segment. Okay, go
And
ahead.
just to add that, you know, because of social media and video taping and everything with our phone, that has brought to light. I mean, if that, you know, the whole, you know, minutes of George Floyd's death was not, you know, recorded and set out, nobody would.
We wouldn't have known. We wouldn't even known about
We
it.
wouldn't know, because it happens daily. It happens daily, you know, and the thing is that we have to realize, for all its shortcomings on social media and everything else, this is bringing to light, you know, the darkness that we have, that people have endured for years. And this is just, you know, that's the only good thing of his death, is that people have realized that this occurs, and, you know, African Americans have endured this for years.
And continuously enduring it.
Yes.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Sonny. Okay, Sherry, anything before you end your segment and we go into our last segment here?
No, that's about it. I just wanted, you know, just to realize that the implicit bias probably was the catalyst for this, because this is the reason why these people died, is they were perceived a certain way. And this is what their lives ended because of it. And the Black Lives Movement was born.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you all